Hi, I'm Mary Kate at the Bellevue Arts Museum, and today we are going to be making pennants. So I wanted to talk a little bit first about the piece of art behind me. This is a quilt made by Joey Veldkamp. He is a Bremerton-based artist, and all of the names that you see behind me are all decommissioned Washington State Ferries. So I got inspired by this quilt, and we are going to be making our own piece of textile art today. So what I have is some felt, as well as a piece of fabric sample that I found up in the BAM classroom, as well as some trusty tacky glue, a Sharpie, or you can use any sort of marker that'll write on a fabric. And then to wrap up this craft, you will need a dowel and some string. You could also use a stick instead of a dowel. I love using a good stick in an arts and crafts project. So first things first, I'm gonna think about what I want to put on my pennant. So I'm not really into sports. I know people like to have like flags with their sports team, but I am really into the Bellevue Arts Museum, so I'm gonna be making a BAM pennant. So I'm gonna take my orange felt because it reminds me of the building, and I am going to draw the letters that I'm going to cut out. So if you're a little nervous about doing this straight away with marker, you could maybe practice on a piece of paper or do it like lightly on your felt first, but I'm just gonna go for it. So I'm gonna include the letters, Bellevue Arts Museum, so BAM. Arts is plural, just for everyone to know. And then most importantly, I'm going to include an exclamation mark because sometimes my friends at BAM make fun of me for how many exclamation marks I use. So I'm putting some pep into my art today. Okay, so you can see right here, I got BAM spelled out. I'm just gonna cut this out. I got my trusty green scissors. They haven't failed me yet. Oop, dropped a little on the floor. And because I wrote this in Sharpie, I'm gonna kind of cut just inside the lines so that black marker doesn't show up on my letters. And sometimes when you're cutting out letters or any shape really, it's easier if you kind of cut out the general shape and then go in to cut the details because it's a little bit easier to navigate with your scissor. Okay, so there's my B. I'll do a little notch here. A great trick for cutting out insides. Oop, I didn't quite get it though. Okay. One of the jokes that we like to make at the museum is coming up with different meanings of the letters, the initials BAM. So sometimes we say like, oh, we're the Banana Arts Museum, or we're the, let's see, think of another one. Bellevue Arts Menagerie. So we like to get silly here sometimes. Okay, got my funky B. Now I'll do the rest of my letters. One of my favorite things about BAM is that we welcome everyone, including different types of animals that live kind of near our museum. So there is a crow that sometimes likes to live in the trees that line Bellevue Way. And sometimes when I'm sitting at my desk up in the office, I can see the crow diving down to say hello to visitors coming into the museum or crossing the street from the mall across the street. So, you know, every critter in the area likes the Bellevue Arts Museum. And they'd probably want to make a pennant celebrating us too. Doot, doot, doot. Okay, so my M. And last but not least, exclamation point. Okay, and you can see for some of my letters, I've been kind of flipping them upside down so that the black part of the marker doesn't show through, which also works. Okay, so I got my letters ready. I'm going to move this scrap to the side. And before I put any glue down on my letters, I'm just going to kind of try to arrange them to make sure that it's how I want to look on my pennant. And I'm thinking about, okay, once I glue these down, what am I going to do next? So I know that I need to leave about, let's say, 1.5 inches of room at the top so I can fold the top of my pennant down to create the hanger. So I'm going to make sure I don't put my letters that high up. And then I'm also going to cut the bottom of my pennant to kind of make it more decorative. So I want to make sure I have enough room on the bottom. So I'm basically centering my letters on here. And I'm just going to trim this up a little more. Okay, beautiful. Now I have my tacky glue, so this works really well on fabric. You could also, if you have a sewing needle and thread at home and you want to make this like an even more intense project, you could use a sewing needle and sew your letters on. But I'm not very good at sewing and I don't have a sewing needle on me right now, so I'm not doing that. Okay, I got my B. And like with most projects, you don't need a whole lot of glue. You just need to put a few dabs here and there. Conserve that glue. Okay. And now that I'm thinking about it, if you have maybe like an old t-shirt at home that maybe you've spilled something on and it's stained and you can't really wear it anymore, or you've outgrown it, and you can use other types of fabric scraps for this project. That would be really cool. Maybe you have a tie-dye t-shirt that you don't wear that much. That would make a really cool pennant. Okay. My final piece, my exclamation mark. Boop, ba-da-doop, boop, boop. Okay, so you can see I got my letters glued down right here. It's looking fun. What I'm gonna do next, I'm pretty happy with the orange on blue. I like that because it's contrasting colors. I'm not gonna add anything else to this right now. So I'm gonna move on to adding the dowel. So once I'm sure these are secure enough, I'm gonna flip this over, stick my dowel here just to kind of eyeball where I want to fold this, and fold that down, kind of take a peek. And then I will be using my tacky glue to glue this on. So I'm just doing like one thin line across here. There we go. So now I'll be able to hang my pennant up like on the wall, like so. Similar to this quilt, how it's hanging up. Now that that's done, I'm just gonna keep things simple, and I'm just going to add a little bit of decoration to the bottom by cutting this into like more of a flag shape. You can go whatever shape you want on this part. You also don't have to cut it. You could add more letters or pictures or whatever to the bottom of your flag. So, whoop, uh-oh, made a little mistake. This came undone. Okay. This is a good example of why you need to be patient in art making. Make sure everything dries. Okay, so we got it. We got that almost done. I'm just gonna fix it one more time. Get a little more glue. Maybe you have a medium-sized line rather than a thin line. There we go. This is it. I can feel it. Okay. While I wait for this to dry before I hang it up, I'll get my string ready. So I'm just going to make it kind of into a triangle. So I'll take maybe about this much string. That's probably, about 2 feet. Nothing too crazy. And I'm going to tie it on either ends of the dowel. I was really excited to find this string in our craft room. It has like a few different colors in it. It's quite pretty. Okay. Just tying the ends. Okay, this is the moment of truth. Will my pennant hold up? Is the glue dry enough? Okay. Ta-da!